Welcome to our second episode. We appreciate you being here. I brought a special guest today, a friend of mine, Krystle Keen Weightman, who's a friend of mine back from high school. I brought her on here today because not only has she exemplified the four pillars of success: health, wealth, love, and happiness, but also because she has a unique story. She's actually had to deal with a challenging disease, which is Lyme disease, something that has not exactly been in the forefront, but it is a prevalent disease here in the United States and most likely throughout the entire world. She'll go ahead and talk to you a little bit about that and exactly her experience with with that illness. And also, with that journey, she'll actually go over some of the things that she has changed in her life and also that she may recommend to other people if they're looking to get healthy and also maybe need a little support through their journey if they have some type of, illness or something, going through something emotional or physically. I do want to preface the episode by saying that we are not medical doctors. She is a nurse practitioner, I believe, from our conversation. But either way, I do encourage you to seek medical advice if this is something that, I think a lot of the stuff that she mentions is general, but if it's something that you want to implement in your life, I do encourage you guys to do your own research and also consult with your doctor and so forth. However, this is from her perspective. And then I also did want to mention that she did say that while she is living this life of, in my opinion, success in her own way, that she is not fallible, right? She is fallible, excuse me. So she does make mistakes and she's gone through some hard times in her life that she talked to me about. And at the same time, we all make mistakes or just life happens. And the thing is about getting back on the horse and being able to thrive and continue with life. So without further ado, hello, Krystle.
Hi,
How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for joining our podcast today. It's wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I remember us being in high school together and, back in the old days and I remember those days very well. And you were always a positive person. And, since then, thankfully one of the good parts about social media is that you're able to connect with people from your past. Otherwise, I moved out to a different state and so forth. So I'm glad we were able to connect and always see your
Yeah.
posts and they're very positive and they're very inspirational and you're very passionate. So that's why I'm having you on here to also
Well,
talk
thank you.
about some of the things you're passionate about.
Awesome. Thank you. I
So
appreciate it.
you're very welcome. It's my pleasure to have you on the show. And hopefully, and I'm sure our listeners and our audience will learn a lot about some of the things you're going to be talking about. Again, our podcast primarily there's four things that we focus on, right? One of them is health, right? What makes a successful life? Like health, wealth, love, happiness, right? So looking back and looking through your social media posts and everything, your family, you've been married. You had mentioned you were married for some time now, 10 years uh,
Hmm.
before the call. And I think that's definitely a milestone these days. Also, have a family and you've gone through some challenges and you're also into health. So which we'll talk a little bit more. So I'm glad you're actually a good example to have on our podcast and that you're able to uh, you know, broadcast that out to the world.
Well, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I try.
So I'm glad you are because it's good to have that initiative, and I think it's very important. So for some people that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and exactly a little bit about your story? And as I mentioned in the intro, you had some challenges. but you're very into nutrition. That's correct? Correct.
Yep, kind of the whole shebang. Basically, my name's Krystle Weightman. I'm 40. I live in Rockford, Illinois. I have 2 kids. I am a nurse for a functional medicine doctor, and I've been a nurse for 11, 12 years now, but I have moved to the functional medicine side of things because of my health journey and the things that I underwent. To make the longest story short, I started having some health issues myself um, after the birth of my son about 7 years ago. I kept getting sicker and sicker. I saw a total of 42 different specialists. I went to 4 different hospitals. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. They just kept shoving me with more pharmaceuticals and pushing me on to the next person. Um, it was a really rough time. At that time, I had to have my mom move in and take care of my 2 kids because I wasn't able to do so. I was going blind at times, having seizures, incredible pain, bedridden, on my deathbed, literally. And even after all the doctors and all the tests, they still were having trouble giving me a diagnosis. Um, Basically, at the end of it all, I still came back empty-handed, and they told me I was on my own. They didn't know why I was sick. They didn't know what was wrong. I'm just going to have to learn to live like this. Um, and so I decided that I wasn't going to take that answer. I was healthy before I had my son. I knew something had changed. I knew something was wrong. And I figured if nobody else was going to help me, I was going to have to figure it out for myself. So hence began the quest of health and my journey, so to speak. I started doing a lot of research and eventually got the diagnosis of Lyme disease. Even though I had been tested many times in conventional medicine, unfortunately, our testing is extremely flawed and it just wasn't picking it up. So once I got my diagnosis, it just really started to open my eyes up about how to get better and how to heal. And I just started diving full force into all of those different areas and um, basically learning to help myself since I was failed by conventional medicine. I mean, nobody knew how, and it was in my hands to figure it out. So that's kind of what opened the doors to my journey, and it's just I haven't stopped. I'm still diving into all kinds of angles and issues and topics and educating the community about all of that ever since. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well,
I
thank you
will
for
put
sharing
I
that.
will yeah I will put out. I later found out about a year and a half after my diagnosis, I found out that I had passed Lyme on to my 2 children congenitally. So
Hmm.
that was an even bigger driving force for me because I didn't want my children to ever suffer the way that I had. So I knew I had to pave the way to keep us healthy. So that's kind of my why and my driving force for sure is stems from my children.
Wow, I didn't know that you can actually pass on Lyme disease that way.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but you can pass it on through birth. It's passed through breast milk, and the CDC won't admit it, but
Mhm.
there is very high speculation that it's passed sexually, which makes sense if you can pass it on through birth and breast milk. We see a lot of that in our practice. Husband and wives having the same exact bands positive. So I believe it's passed sexually as well.
Okay. Yeah, I was doing some research. I mean, it seems like Lyme disease is one of those diseases that's very prevalent, increasingly, just recently based on
Mhm.
some research that I've done. And however, there's doctors that look at it one way and other doctors that look at it a different way, and there's still research being done. Um, but I do commend you for making it through that and actually trying to actually educate the public about your
Sure.
experience with it. Because I can't
Yeah.
imagine. I mean, I've personally been sick for a couple weeks at most, and I'm just kind of like, dude, this is the end. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Hmm.
like, I can't imagine dealing with something for so long and still seeing the light, um, you know, in the horizon. and keeping a
For sure.
positive attitude. How'd you get through that? I mean, what how was that?
It's crazy. Like, the number one cause of death in a person with Lyme disease is suicide, because these people
Mm,
suffer so immensely without help. And it's such an underdiagnosed, like, the doctors don't understand it. They don't get very much education on it. There hasn't been a lot of funding to continue research. So there are so many people who go undiagnosed, and suffer, and hence, why the suicide rate is so high. Um, I think the reason, like I said, that I was able to remain positive, I mean, I did go through, don't get me wrong, the whole why me? How come this is happening to me in the beginning? But now I look at my diagnosis as a blessing, because it has changed my life in a way that we are healthier, we are avoiding toxins, we are healing our bodies holistically and naturally. And I would have never known those things in order and been able to help and protect my children. Um, and who knows where we would all be right now. Like, had I never got that diagnosis and never had to learn how to heal, I would still be doing all the terrible things, and who knows where my children would be right now. And so it's kind of been a driving factor of my, like, again, I keep coming back to my kids. I just want to make sure that they don't suffer and that they don't go through what I went through. And um I don't have a choice, they you just got to keep on keeping on, I guess. And whenever I get down on myself or feel sorry for myself or sad about my situation, I just remind myself, like, how lucky I am to be alive and breathing. And I
mm,
truly 100% believe I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't figured out for myself what was wrong and got the right testing and got the treatment when I did. That's how bad I was declining. So,
mm. Well, those are all good things you mentioned because I want to ask you about that. Some of the things you found through that journey. But before we leave the topic of Lyme disease, I mean, what do you think? I saw a post you had posted, and maybe I'll try to find it and share it on here. Um, you know, the way that these ticks. I mean, is that the primary form of this type of transmission usually for mostly? Is that because
yeah.
usually you
So,
hear severe ticks, right? But what can you
yeah.
tell us a
Well, so
little more about that?
contrary to popular belief, ticks are in all of the states, every area. It used to be thought, like, if somebody thought they had Lyme disease and they lived down south, the doctors would say, "Oh no, it can't be Lyme. We don't have ticks here." That is false. There have been ticks found in every single state, and they are out year round. They are out in the winter, they are out all the time. So, it is not, they have proven now that Borrelia burgdorferi, which is the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, can also be transmitted by other biting vectors. So, spiders, mosquitoes, fleas, ticks. Obviously, the ticks being the primary mode of transmission, but they have
Mhm.
found those bacterias in all other biting vector insects. So that's concerning when you think about how many times a summer do you get a mosquito bite? You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
concerning how fast this is spreading, how much of the population probably has it and doesn't even know it yet, and how underdiagnosed and poorly understood it is overall.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, that these could be through other types of insects, right? I mean, we all go outside, and I mean, do you have any like, from your experience, any preventative type of measures that you would
Yeah.
recommend? If
So part of my personal quest for health was getting rid of toxins, and we can kind of go into that a little bit later. But conventional bug sprays, so to speak, are full of toxins and neurotoxins
mm,
and chemicals and things that we should not be slathering on our body to absorb. Everything you put on your body absorbs within 26 seconds. So we have come up with a couple of natural remedies. There are things that you can order online. There are essential oil remedies that you can make yourself. We treat our yard. every year. We treat the yards of our families and friends we know that we're going to be hanging out in and playing at. We spray our bodies with these concoctions, whether it be something we order online or something that I home make. And then we're constantly doing tick checks. So we make sure our animals have collars and protection. And then when we come in the house, almost every time we do tick checks on each other just to be sure. I'm kind of that crazy lady from my experience. When we go camping, I'm like spraying everybody and everything.
Sure.
But yeah, it's preventative is key because I mean, once you get Lyme disease, you have 2 weeks. So if you find a tick attached to you, you have 2 weeks from the time it attaches to get treatment. If you do not get treatment in that time, or you say you never even saw the tick,
Hmm.
the infection is no longer considered acute and it turns into chronic infection. Once Lyme is chronic, it is not curable. It is only able to be put in remission. So me and my children have chronic Lyme. We can put it into remission, but there has yet to be something that 100% eradicates it from your body. There are people that are claiming to have things, but I mean, nothing's been proven. So that prevention is key. And then if you were to find a tick, like I said, instant treatment within that 2 weeks is also key, to keep from going systemic and chronic like it is for us.
Got it. So if you see early symptoms, I mean, are you looking at like if you have a symptom, or are you looking if you have like if you feel something, or what's? I mean,
So if a tick is attached, it's automatic treatment for us as far as we're concerned at our
yeah.
office. And the doctor I work for is what's considered an LLMD, which stands for Lyme Literate Medical Doctor. So he's had
Mm,
special training on Lyme and goes to conferences several times per year. So if we have any type of tick attached, it's an automatic 30-day minimum of treatment with antibiotics. Um, and unless the patient has the tick. So we tell people if you do get bit by a tick and you remove it, to keep the tick, because we can send it off to several labs who can test the tick for Lyme disease and co-infections. And that way, the turnaround's really fast. I would say 3-4 days. That way, you know exactly what you need to be treating for. Or if the tick comes back clear, then you can stop the antibiotics and you don't need to complete that course unnecessarily. But
yeah.
we automatically just err on the side of caution and treat everyone for like a minimum of, we really try to get a minimum of 6 weeks of treatment, just because the alternative of having it go systemic and having it lifelong is just not worth it otherwise. So we're
Mm,
very, very quick to treat acute cases. But like I said, most people don't even know that they have Lyme. They don't remember being bit by a tick. They never saw
mm,
it. They never had symptoms. And it was just something in their life along the way that caused their immune system to kind of go a little haywire. And then it kind of um, comes to the surface and starts causing problems. And that's the case for myself. I don't remember being bit.
got it. And I saw you had mentioned on one of your social media posts that this is also something that may not be covered by insurances. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So,
Or is
yeah.
that?
So
I mean,
there's
there's
several,
specific insurances, but yeah.
yeah. So there's several, obviously we don't have the cure to Lyme or we'd be rich. I'd be rich if we had the cure. But we do know that there are essentially three major modes of treatment for people with chronic Lyme. And we don't know which one's going to work best for which person. And we all have differing ideas on which we think is the best. I mean, I know which one I think works best. Other people will tell you different things. But essentially, your modes of treatment are antibiotics, herbals, or homeopathy. Antibiotics are the only treatment that insurance covers. And a lot of
Mm,
time they don't cover it 100%. They kick back. They need a prior authorization. They only cover a portion of it. And honestly, the antibiotics being covered is a new thing. We just got passed in legislation like within the last 3 years. They used to not cover Lyme treatment at all. So
hmm,
right now, the only treatment that is covered at all is the antibiotic treatment. Now, I see way better success in my experience with my personal patients and clients treating naturally with either the herbals or the homeopathy. So it's very costly. I mean, I'm not lying when I say that I've probably spent over $100,000 on treatment between me and my two children in the last 7 years,
Mm.
trying things and figuring it out and trial and error. Um, it's very, that's another reason why people don't get better, because they're not, some people can't afford it. I mean, you can't afford to treat yourself, which is crazy to me. We live in America. This is nuts. But yeah, a lot of people just can't afford to treat and therefore suffer until disease succumbs them, or they take their life because of suffering. It's terrible.
Yeah, sounds. I didn't know that about the suicide situation, but yeah, I mean, it sounds like if you were to get into that situation, you have almost like the whole world's falling, on you. Like you have this
Yeah.
financial burden, and I'm sure that goes with a lot of other diseases and things and so forth. But when
A
your
lot of
your
people too
cures,
don't,
yeah.
yeah, a lot of people don't understand, like, it's a very isolating disease. Like, I
Mm,
look normal on the outside and I can smile and you and I can have this conversation and I look like a very normal person. Um, Lyme affects every body system you have, and it migrates in different places throughout your body. So one day I could have heart issues, the next day I could have stomach issues, the next day I could be in excruciating pain, the next day I could have a seizure. Like, it affects every system of your body, and because you don't outwardly have this appearance of being sick, um some people don't believe that you're as sick as you say you are, or um they don't understand it. They can't understand what you're feeling or going through. So it's a very isolating disease for people whose friends and family don't understand that even though they may look normal on the outside, they are suffering tremendously from the physical, aspects on the inside. So that's
mm,
another, thing that's kind of the different about this disease. We're not wasting away and getting pale and losing hair like cancer patients, but
mm.
just because we look okay on the outside does not mean we're doing okay. And I think a lot of people forget that. So it can be very isolating if you don't have a good support system in place, for sure.
Well, I mean, glad. Well, who was your? I mean, your family was there, obviously, right? Your husband,
Yeah.
your children.
Yeah. My family's been great, but I got to be honest, like, I did a total lifestyle change when I got sick. Like, I am not the same person my husband married. I'm not the
Mm,
same daughter my parents had. Like, I've had to learn to live a new lifestyle and will forever. And so there were things that my husband or my family didn't understand or weren't on board with. And like, even
mm,
now, like, my kids are on a very specific diet to keep their inflammation low and to keep their disease from progressing. And so some like friends and stuff will be like, "Oh my god, just let them have the candy," or just let them have McDonald's. And what they don't understand is I'm not doing that to punish my kids. I'm doing that to keep my kids safe. And so it's just every aspect of what I'm doing and thinking and feeling and putting on my body and in my body has to do with the fact that we have Lyme and that I'm trying to keep us healthy. It really has changed every aspect of who I am and what I do. Um, and so it's hard for people to understand when they've never gone through anything like that. And even close friends and family, like I said, question me sometimes, or about what I won't let my kids have, or how strict I
mm.
am, or what I won't let them use. And I just wish that they would see it as me making loving, healthy choices and not being, the overprotective, dramatic mom, because that's not me at all.
I mean, it makes sense. I think you bring up some good points. I mean, I've recently started getting into, well, not recently, but I've been getting more and more into health as I progress in my age, and I think
For
everybody
sure.
should.
Yeah.
But you're starting them early. Your kids are early, and those habits will eventually will impact them later on in their life. Their nutrition,
Yeah.
what they're eating now is gonna not show up for 10, 20 years. So
For sure.
I'm
I
glad
sure
you're able
hope
to do
that
that.
my 6-year-old now, if you ask him, says, when I grow up, I'm going to eat all the Skittles I want. Because I don't, I don't allow Skittles because
Yeah.
of so many other things. But it's funny. Yes, I hope that as they're growing, I'm instilling in healthier habits for them for sure. But it's not easy. They still fight me. They're still kids. They still want to partake in the things that other kids want to partake in. It's a balance of
Mhm.
finding a medium that works for us. But yeah, I ultimately hope that they'll grow up with, just our population and our generation in general. Like, our kids are being exposed to so much more than we were exposed to. So much has changed with the chemicals we're around, the toxins we're around, endocrine disruptors, the food that we're eating, genetically modified things in our food. I mean, it's
Mhm.
so different now than it was even 10, 20, 30 years ago. So I did read a statistic recently, which I haven't confirmed, but scared the crap out of me, that people in my children's generation are not expected to outlive their parents because of the toxic load in
Mhm.
today's society, what they're being exposed to at such a much younger age than what we were. And that's terrifying when you think about it.
No, it is absolutely. I agree, but I also see the positive things. I'm glad that we're able to, you see the organic stuff being put on the shelves. You see
For
all
sure.
of these different nutritional farm to table type of situations where at least we're given now the chance. It is a little bit more pricier at times, but the way I tell my friends and family is either you're gonna pay now or you're gonna pay later, right? So
Absolutely.
it's good to make good choices. So why
For
don't we talk
sure.
about that? Because you mentioned something that I'm still doing. I went camping and I still go outside and deal with mosquitoes and stuff. And I got the traditional stuff you get at the major retailers. You spray on the spray and stuff. And you mentioned that those have all kinds of toxins in there. And I always wonder about that. It's like, hey, is this stuff really good for you or not? I mean, it's
Hmm.
getting into the skin. I'm imagining it, absorbing it. Is that? Can you maybe talk a little about that? Like, I know that you have a service and some products. I believe that you started working on and are promoting to kind of have people become aware of the things that they're putting into their body and their household. Can you talk a little
Yeah,
bit more about that?
absolutely. Yeah. So during, my quest for health, I realized that part of the reason that we're so sick as individuals is we just have such high toxin loads, based on what things used to be. Like, we're just subjected to so much more chemicals, more toxins, more garbage. You would be blown away if you really did like a detailed dive into what you were putting in and on your body for a week, you'd be blown away. Like, I am just never, it never ceases to amaze me what the government allows in our food. We have stuff in our food that's banned in other countries.
Hmm.
We have most of the stuff in our like toiletries, our lotions, our soaps, our makeup, our shampoos, laundry detergents. I mean, things that you're using to clean yourself with are like loaded with toxins. There's endocrine disruptors. There's things that are, I mean, we're wondering why, little girls are going through puberty at 8 and 9 years old. They're getting hormones. We're giving them endocrine disruptors. I mean, we have men in our practice who are in their 20s and have insufficient testosterone levels and infertility. And it all has to do with like what we're putting on and in our bodies. Um, I can't wrap my brain around why this stuff is legal, why it's legal to put these things in our personal care products and our foods, but it is. And unfortunately, our personal care products and our makeups and things like that, our toiletries, they're not really FDA regulated. Um, people can put whatever they want in there. And like I said earlier, your skin is your biggest organ, and it takes 26 seconds for something to absorb when you put it on your skin. So if you're constantly loading yourself with cologne and facial lotion, you put in your soap that you use is toxin and toxic, and you're eating toxic food, and then it's just you're constantly being exposed to this stuff all the time. Your liver has, you know, one choice. Like my liver personally can either work on removing the Lyme bacteria out of my body, or it can work on removing the toxins out of my body. But it
Mm-hmm.
can't do both efficiently. And that's what I explain to my clients, that why would I want to tax my liver with all these chemicals that I can choose to avoid and give my liver the most best chance of filtering out my natural toxins that are coming from my Lyme disease? Like, why would you put that extra burden on your body? I think honestly, people are just ignorant to the fact of what's in our products. I mean,
Right.
7 years ago, I was using everything, you know, I like even going to Target, there is very rarely something that I would even buy from Target. That's how bad it is. So
Mm.
I created this non-toxic website, this group of mine, and I was
Yeah.
on the hunt to find the best alternatives and clean products. And I thought, man, this is taking me so much time and effort to do all this research myself. I'm going to create this website, and I'm going to put my tried and true and researched products on there so that people have one spot to go and they don't have to spend all this time like I did researching. So
Got it.
some of them are products that like I'm a part of and benefit from, but mostly they are not. Most of them are
Mhm.
products that I have just found and used and researched and just want to share the wealth with other people so that they can learn to live toxin free. And that's one of the services I offer, is teaching people how to do that, and how, you can't do it overnight. I mean, think about all the things you'd have to change in your home. So I
Mhm.
help kind of walk people through the steps of becoming a toxin free household. Um, so yeah, it's kind of my passion because it's made such a difference in our health here.
I mean, I'm glad. I mean, well, I'll ask you about your website here in a minute, but usually, you know, you come across different people that have an agenda, but it sounds like you have a genuine interest in letting people know about this, and you have a mission. Because you also, like you mentioned, you just don't promote your own products that you thought were good to bring out to the market, but you're also promoting other products that you found beneficial for other people to actually use. So I
Yeah,
think that's very
absolutely. It makes
honorable
me
for you to
mad.
do that.
It makes me mad
Mhm.
that this isn't all over the news. It makes me mad that this is legal. It makes me angry that we're giving children food dyes that we know 100% cause ADHD, and then they're being put on a medication that has more side effects, and it's just a rolling ball of craziness to me. So I feel like it's my job to scream from the mountaintops of, look, people, there are healthier ways to do things. There are ways to not damage our bodies. And yeah, like I said, some of the products I promote, I have my hand in and I do profit from, but I would say 80% of them are not. Like, that is not my purpose. I'm very upfront in my group about what I profit from and what I don't. My goal is not to make money. I have a job. I'm a nurse. I love my job. My goal is not to make money from side jobs. My goal is to help other people realize that there are other ways, and that we're being hurt by the products out there. It's crazy.
So I have a couple of questions in regard to that. I mean, for example, let's say, who would be your somebody, like, for example, it sounds like this is could help everybody, right? It can help
Mhm.
a lot of people. Everybody needs nutritional, but I mean, who really needs this? I mean, who would be like, hey, I need this like tomorrow. Like, I need this. I
Yeah.
need to contact her tomorrow or
So
today.
my target audience usually is what I like to call the left behinds, or like the hopeless cases. Most people that are suffering with autoimmune diseases or chronic illnesses or things like that have gone to an average of 10 doctors before finding help. And most of them don't even find help, to be honest. I mean, our healthcare system is set up in a way that we treat sick people with symptom relief. We don't teach health. We don't teach prevention. We treat sick. And so um, it's I help market towards the people who they're at their wits' end. They've tried everything. They can't figure out what's wrong. They're like me. They've been told they're nuts. They've been told there's nothing wrong. They've gone through the ringer. They've been through all the testing. Um, that's kind of where my focus is. Like, working in functional medicine as a functional medicine nurse, we're looking for root causes. We're looking for detoxifying your body. We're looking for getting down to the reason you are that way to begin with. And it's a complete holistic approach. You're coming at it from many different angles. So, I mean, like, my target patients, I guess you could say, or clients, are the people who, not only the health conscious people who are already there and already have a like mindset and are just trying to get, cleaner products, but the people who are also not there and are lost and are helpless and aren't getting the answers that they need from their doctor. I've seen miraculous recoveries. I mean, I've had patients go from wheelchairs to walking. I've had patients go from nonverbal to verbal. I've seen miracles, and I see them all the time. And I just want people to know that there are other options out there. There are other things. Doctors are not God. There is a time and a place, and I don't want you to think that I'm anti-doctor, because I'm not.
No,
I'm not
right.
anti-conventional medicine, but there's a time and a place for it. And there are many other ways and things you can do for your health besides just shoving pharmaceuticals down your throat for every
Mm,
little symptom you have. So that's kind of teaching people how to live cleaner lives, and grabbing those people who are hopeless and have tried everything and aren't getting help. Those are the kind of people
mm,
that I want to let know there is light at the end of the
yeah.
tunnel. Just look down this tunnel
Yeah,
instead.
absolutely. I think we're all, that's your business. So I could just imagine people, you trying to find, or those people trying to find you. And then also I imagine, hey, like it'd be good to have somebody kind of this information before you even get to that stage, because who wants
For
to get
sure.
to that stage?
For sure.
Thankfully, I've been on this side of the spectrum where, hey, like I'm already kind of investigating like all these things that can cause inflammation in the body. It's through my journey. You find sugar is like in everything. These days
Hmm.
I'm like all these things that can cause inflammation. Buy a loaf of bread. I mean, that has added sugars in there, and
I know.
so all
I
these
know.
things. I mean, never. Yeah,
Our food sources are
yeah.
terrible.
I mean, yeah.
But
So it's getting. I think it's good to have those options. That hey, look at the nutritional facts, look at the chemicals, the stuff they're putting in there. But again, one of those things that I'm still like not 100% on, or I'm convinced, but I'm still not actually implementing in my life is actually the products that I'm putting on myself, like the
hmm
shampoos. I recently, not too long ago, I was dealing with something where I decided to change soaps because I was like, let me try a different soap because I'm having issues. I think it was just with my skin or something. Like you said, some people don't know that the skin is the biggest organ in the body. They
hmm
don't know that. It's just that one of
yeah,
those things where you have your heart, you have your lungs, you have your kidneys and liver, but nobody ever thinks that the skin is an organ. So I was like, let me try different soap, different deodorant, see if those things help. So yeah, I'm glad you're helping people out with this. Like,
yeah.
let me
I,
ask you a
I do.
question about your company. Go
Oh.
ahead.
No, I say I do kind of get that a lot. People will be like, well, I've eaten fast food for 30 years and I'm fine, and I've used Bath and Body Works products and nothing's wrong with me. And what I try to explain to people is that everybody's body burden or toxic load is different. And if you can imagine like a
Mm,
cup in your body and it's filling with toxins and garbage and chemicals, and at some point, that will spill over. And that tipping point is different for every person. So you can have
right.
somebody who's done all these things for 25, 30, 40 years and been fine. But then you can have somebody who's only done those, you know what I'm saying? Like everyone's burden is different and their tipping point is different. So even though you may have used all these products thus far,
Mhm.
hopefully you don't get to that point where your cup spills over, because unfortunately it usually catches up to you at some point in time. And that's kind of how I explain it
Mm.
to patients when I'm trying to let them know why some others are affected more than others and things like that.
Yeah, that's scary because that's how I felt. I was using these products. I was fine. I've been eating this. I can't eat that no more. Or I can't drink this anymore because I mean, I used to drink milk. I love milk. It was kind of like a daily staple, and I was like, hey, like maybe that's causing me issues now that I'm older. Now, hey, what's going on with this almond milk? Or so it's like
Mm-hmm.
you have to make different choices as you grow older.
Yeah.
But just because you're trying to fix things. I mean, maybe when you were younger, your body can tolerate different things, can process things
Mm-hmm.
differently. Like that, things do collect.
I just think as a whole, we should work more on preventing instead of fixing. Like that's my
Mm-mm.
whole goal. Like let's get the info out there to prevent people from ever getting to the point that they have to fix those things. You know what I mean? Because we don't have a lot of preventative education out there on this stuff. They're not talking about it on the news and what's in
Hmm.
the products. And I mean, so if I can spread that awareness, and I know not everybody's gonna hop on board, but if it saves one person's life, then it's worth it to me.
Totally, I totally agree. Let me ask you with your company or you know what's I mean, it sounds like the mission's obvious, right? From what we're talking about. But what's your future? What's your vision? Like, where do you want to take this? I mean, ideally speaking, let's say you had, you know, where do you see your life in 5 years with this?
Yeah, good question. Um, so in the beginning of my journey, like I focused in on like one part of healing. Like I really focused on my supplements and taking the right homeopathy, and because that's what I chose to do. And it took me a year or so, two years, to realize that healing is holistic, meaning it's got healing involves every angle of your life. So when I started doing things like making sure I was detoxing effectively, making sure I cleaned up my diet, making sure I was using toxin free products, making sure I was getting enough sleep, making sure my hormones were balanced. Like, I'm in school currently to become a holistic Lyme and chronic illness practitioner. I graduate in 5 months, and then ultimately, I mean, my end goal is to have like a one-stop shop. So you can come into my clinic and I can teach you how to gain your health back holistically in all of these areas. I'll have modalities there that people can use. I will have, the nutrition part of it there. I'll have somebody there to counsel on toxin-free switchovers. Like I want to offer the whole shebang in a one-stop place, because right now I've had to pick and choose and go to all these different places to get to where I'm at today. I want to be able, just working for a functional medicine doctor, we have 600 people on our waiting list. 600. That's crazy. We need more people looking at root causes, and figuring out why people are getting sick to begin with. So that's my goal. I want to open my own clinic. I want to be able to help people and reach as many as I can, as people who are in similar situations to me. And that's my 5 to 10 year. So
That's awesome. I think you
hopefully
can
that
do
pans
it.
out.
So, Krystle, thank you so much for being on our podcast, our show here. Last question is, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on social media. My personal social media Facebook link it's just under my name, Krystle, Krystle, Keen, Keen,
Mhm.
Weightman, Weightman. You could search me on Facebook. I also run the non-toxic living site. That's on Facebook as well. That's on non-toxic living with Krystle. And again, Krystle is spelled Krystle. And then I do sell a toxin-free skincare and makeup line. And you can find that at www.crunchi.com/Krystle Weightman, KrystleWeightman. Wow, it's a mouthful. But yeah, otherwise those are the ways that I'm on so far. Still learning the Instagram thing. I'm old.
No worries. Well, you don't look one bit. But you know what I'll do is I'll actually add those links to the bottom of the
Perfect.
video. That way, if anybody wants to visit and follow you, they can, they
Awesome.
can just easily, for their convenience,
Cool.
click on it. So I'll go ahead and add those for you. One last thing. I mean, any advice you would want to give? Let me ask you one very very
Mm-hmm.
last question, right? Advice to anybody that is, what would you say to that person right now that is dealing with those, a sickness, like Lyme disease or anything else that's like threatening and they're needing
Yeah.
support? What would you say to those people?
Number one is be your own advocate. You are the only person that knows you. And so I don't care if 20 doctors are telling you there's nothing wrong with you. If you know something's wrong, be your own advocate. Keep searching, keep looking, keep asking the questions, keep going to different places. Don't stop believing in yourself, for sure. Many times I was told there was nothing anyone could do for me. And had I just sat down and taken that, I don't think I'd be here today. So just believe in yourself and advocate for yourself are probably the two biggest pieces of advice that I have. And don't give up, because there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you for that. I'm sure there's people out there that do need to hear
Thank you.
that message. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Krystle. I know that I did. Now, we did learn something new, and hopefully you did as well, regarding Lyme disease and then also how to stay healthy, right? Make some changes in your life, that something maybe you might have tried in the past. Now, also, what I've learned, especially what connected with me, was to not be afraid to ask for help from your support system, the people that support you, your family, friends. But then also, in addition to that, to also be your own advocate, which I really loved. If you find that you have a feeling, to trust your instincts and continue moving forward, and not trust the first thing or the first source that you get. So again, we do appreciate you listening in, watching the video. Thanks again for your support. Continue watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.